Innovative Industrial Properties Stock, ticker symbol IIPR. This stock is up 5% year to date, underperforming the overall market. And on the 8th of May, IIPR presented earnings with a miss on FFO and revenue. Most people love innovative industrial properties stock because of the dividends. And I understand why, with dividend yield at 6.8%. And the growth numbers are also really impressive. In here we see the total returns in the past 5 years including dividends. IIPR returned 39%, while the S&P 500 is at 104%. A significant difference if you ask me. And the interesting part is that they jumped off a cliff in late 2021. But more on that in a minute. And with the stock coming down lately and the earnings report released, it is the perfect time to do an analysis. And I'm very excited to see what you guys think about this stock, so please let me know your thoughts in the comments. My name is Thomas and this is Thomas Invest. I'm an investor looking for great stocks at great prices. So what does IIPR do? Innovative Industrial Properties is a real estate investment trust engaged in the acquisition, ownership and management of specialized industrial properties leased to state licensed operators for their regulated medical use cannabis facilities. Diving into the earnings results, we see that revenue was reported at 75 million and net income was reported at 39 million. Both numbers are down year over year, which is a bit concerning to me. Net income per share is also down year over year, so definitely keep an eye on these numbers. Looking at one of the most important numbers, the FFO and AFFO, we see that these numbers are also down year over year. This is what worries me even more. Diving a bit more in the company itself, we see that IIPR has a portfolio of 2.4 billion across 19 states and 30 tenants. The average weighted lease term is at 14.8 years, looking pretty good to me. 92% of the portfolio is industrial, which is very nice, and Massachusetts is the biggest state here together with Pennsylvania, in terms of ABR, both exceeding the 14%. I prefer a maximum of 10% here. Looking at the tenant breakdown, we see that Pharmachan is the biggest with almost 17%. Again, I prefer a maximum of 10% here, so they could diversify a bit more. Another interesting thing is the invested capital and tenant growth. As of lately, it is really slowing down a lot. And that's also reflected in the AFFO per share. It still grew in 2023, but at a much lower rate versus previous years. And it's the same with the dividends. But again, they had some impressive growth back in the days. It is estimated that the cannabis market will grow at 9% compound annual growth rate, up to 46 billion in 2028. So there's more than enough room to expand the business. And now that we know a bit more about the company, it is time to check the fundamentals of this stock. But first, if you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you a lot for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to receive multiple analyses every week. And also join my Discord channel for free to meet other people within the community and to talk about stocks. It's completely free, so don't miss it out. Let's continue by diving into the fundamentals. IIPR is a 3 billion market cap company. PE ratio is not a fair metric to use with REITs, so I'll be using the price to FFO instead. Right now it is sitting at 13.3. indicating they might be undervalued. Later in this video I will show you my 3 price targets for IIPR stock, so make sure to watch until the end, because price to FFO is only telling a small part of the full story here. Revenue is at 309 million, and in this graph we see that revenue went up in the long run. To me this looks really good, however the revenue is really slowing down since 2021. And as a matter of fact, for the first time, revenue is declining. We see that gross margins are going down lately. The operating margin and net margin are stabilizing here. I would love to see bigger increases. EPS is going up in the long run. For a REIT, it is really steady and consistent. However, we see the same thing as with the revenue growth, is slowing down a lot. Analysis expected in the coming years EPS will decrease, which is really sad to see. But in 2025 it is expected to start growing again. For the revenue it is looking pretty interesting, with almost no growth expectations in 2024. But in 2025 they expect revenue to start growing again. It has to be said that these are not high numbers. Return on assets is sitting at almost 7%, which is a decent number. Return on equity looks pretty decent, and the most important number, return on invested capital, is sitting at 4.3%, which is a low number. But it is slightly higher versus the 5-year average, so that's the silver lining here. Current ratio is at 3, which is a little on the high side, but I'm not worried that much right now. Another interesting thing is the debt. IIPR has 300 million in debt, and I prefer companies that can pay down at least a big chunk of their total debt with the total cash. IIPR has 150 million in total cash, so they can pay down a big chunk of their total debt. This is something that I really like, especially since it is a REIT. But it is still very important that free cash flow is growing, since this is used to pay down debt of course, but also to buy back shares, pay dividends and all other things. And here we see that free cash flow is going up in the long run, which is a great thing. But again, growth is slowing down. Shares outstanding are increasing, which is very common for a REIT, since they increase shares to raise capital. But in the recent years they didn't really issue a lot of new shares. When shares outstanding are decreasing, it increases your ownership in the company, increases the EPS, lowers the PE ratio, and makes it easier to maintain and increase the dividends. And since we're talking about dividends anyways, dividend yield is sitting at almost 6.8%, which is a great number. Annual payout is at $7.24 and payout ratio is at 88%, which is above the 75% average for REITs. The growth numbers are looking really impressive, with a 5-year growth rate of 39% and 6 consecutive years of dividend increases. In here we see the dividends paid since 2017. They increased the dividends at a high pace, but ever since 2021 things are slowing down a lot. And in this graph we see the expected dividends in 2024, 2025 and 2026. Of course this is an estimation and can be highly impacted by results, but it gives you a rough indication. It is expected to increase slowly from here. And overall these dividends look really interesting to me. But how about the historical returns? I decided to compare IIPR stock with the overall market, in this case the S&P 500. On the 5-year chart we see that IIPR massively underperformed the S&P 500. In total, IIPR stock returned 40%, while the S&P 500 returned 104%. And keep in mind, this is including dividends. On the 1-year chart it looks pretty interesting, with IIPR beating the S&P 500 big time, with 63% versus 27%. On the 6-month chart it is again IIPR that is beating the S&P 500. This time IIPR returned 26%, while the S&P 500 is at 16%. On the 1-month chart it is the S&P 500, with a slightly higher return. So bottom line, IIPR underperformed the S&P 500 long term, but most recently it is getting some momentum. So could this be the perfect time to buy IIPR stock? Well, let's check the 3 price targets that I created using the Everything Money software, which is one of the best tools out there. I'm using a low, mid and high assumption to get the 3 price targets, starting off with revenue growth. For the revenue growth I'm filling in 2, 4 and 6%, based on historical performance, their own outlook, but also because of the analysis. For the profit margin I'm filling in 50, 54 and 58. And for the free cash flow margin I'm putting in 80, 82 and 84. For the PE ratio I'm putting in 10, 12 and 14. and for the price to free cash flow I'm putting in the same numbers. My desired annual return is 12.5% since I get an easy 10% average annual return with owning an ETF. Right now IIPR stock is around $106. I hit analyze and we see one green number. And since this is a REIT, I'm only focusing on the discounted cash flow value. We have a low price target of $82. We have a mid price target of $104 and we have a high price target of $132. And to me, the mid price target is the most justified here, indicating that this stock is kinda fairly valued right now. Which price target do you think is the most justified here? Let me know in the comments down below. My final conclusion on IIPR stock is that it has really my attention, but the growth numbers are holding me back right now. If they are capable of growing tenants, properties and with that the revenue again, then things might be very different. From a dividend point of view I really get excited. The yield is pretty high and they keep on growing the dividend. However, the dividend growth is slowing down big time, which is again worrying me a lot. But if they are capable of growing the company again, I'm sure that dividends will follow. From a value point of view, things don't look that great either. In my opinion, they are not undervalued, so for now I'm skipping on this stock. But I add them to my watchlist, since they have an interesting niche focus. In the coming quarters, I think we should pay attention to the growth numbers, and that will decide if I keep tracking this company or that it is a potential risk investment. And remember to always do your own research and never fully trust on what I or other YouTubers say about the stock. I'm not a financial advisor and this content is just for entertaining purposes only. I hope you liked this video and it did bring some insights of the company to you. I would really appreciate a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to get notified when I'm posting a new video. Thanks for watching and I will see you in my next video.